Hello my dream bees and welcome back to my channel and of course Vlogmas. So for this week I wanted us to go deeper into our Ayurveda philosophy. Let's talk more about the doshas. Today's video is going to be all about the VATA dosha. What kind of qualities are associated with it? How are the elements making up this dosha? What kind of tendencies or bad habits? And especially let's talk about the digestion and how it is affected. So maybe you're looking to get to know your body a little bit better. Maybe you want to associate your Ayurveda philosophy with your yoga practice. So whatever you're looking for today, I hope you learn something new. Our VATA dosha. This dosha is made up of the two elements, air as in prana and wind, and also ether, which is our sense of space, the universe. We're getting these two energies of air and space. And when you combine them, you get this very powerful energy. So if you don't know what the doshas are what you are composed of, how the elements mix in your body to create your physical structure, your emotional tendencies, your personality, your bad habits. All of this is because of how the elements react in your body. So someone that has a VATA dosha has a lot of air and space naturally in their body. They're going to feel it physically, where maybe they feel it in the joints. There are sensations of dryness, cold. Their mobility is very light and airy. And there's also a lot of movement in the body because we have that movement coming from the air and the space. So I know it can be confusing at the beginning to really relate the elements to our structure. But the more I talk about it, I hope it starts to make sense. As you're having these qualities of dryness, lightness, air, and movement, we're going to feel that as well in the mind. So if you have a VATA dosha or a predominant VATA dosha, you're going to feel a sense of airiness in the mind. You have a lot of energy here up in the head. As opposed to having your energy grounded, where you constantly feel a sense of grounding in the earth, we're talking about the opposite feeling where everything is mostly up in the head. So maybe you have a lot of thoughts, constant motion and movement in the mind. Maybe things feel a little bit lighter. You're someone that is very joyous and happy. You like to move. You like to always change, always looking for the next thing. These are qualities that we're going to feel because of those air and space elements. My key tips when your VATA dosha or your VATA energy is very, very high would be to find balance. Now, we know Ayurveda is all about creating balance in the body and mind, but for a VATA, balance can be very difficult. If your mind is constantly moving and your body is searching for constant movement, it's very hard to recenter when your VATA energy is that high. We sometimes need to slow things down and maybe not move so much, or move quietly but regularly. Next key tip for VATA dosha is to reduce your sugar and caffeine content. So with your nervous system already being so high, being overactivated, we don't want to add any extra stress in the body. So sugar and caffeine, even though this is a very general rule that it's very important for everyone to reduce their sugar and caffeine, for VATA, you are going to feel it very intensely. This sugar and caffeine might overly boost the body, giving you headaches, making your nervous system feel very shaky. This can result with a lot of anxiety because the mind is just not resting. So keep this in mind and really find balanced meals that calm the nervous system. My third tip is anxiety and stress management. Even though we all go through periods where we're having high levels of stress, for a Vata dosha, this stress feels very intense and overwhelming. It's truly in the nervous system, so that sense of anxiety all over can be just too much. So I want you to be aware that it's not something that is out of your control all the time. If you bring things back into balance, that anxiety will calm down. And once the nervous system is calm, it is a lot easier to manage stress. So think about the things that you love to do that make you feel good, that make you feel happy and peaceful. I always relate it back to yoga and meditation because that's what works for me. But if you like reading a book or painting or being artistic, these things are going to really help you find a sense of center. Because I know how it feels when everything is out of sorts. It is really hard to feel good. Let's talk about how this affects our digestion. Vata energy, keeping with those elements of air and space, tends to make the digestion very difficult because now we're having too much air in the belly. That sense of space can be uncomfortable because there's constant movement and motion in the belly, and maybe too much movement. Let's see how the qualities of Vata affect our digestion. We know that if there's too much air and too much space in the belly, then we're going to have a real hard time digesting certain foods. That sense of air can be like bloating. That wind is like constant movement. So if our Vata energy is very high, we could experience very uncomfortable cramps, bloating in the belly, maybe some gas, which is very uncomfortable. So we want to find ways that we can eat that is going to pacify that. As a Vata, you can really favor foods that are warm. That's going to combat the cold and dryness. Foods that are warm and moist and maybe a little bit heavier. Because there's so much air energy, let's bring foods that are going to stabilize that energy, that are going to ground us. We're always talking with opposition. If the energy is too high, let's bring it back down. When there's too much movement, let's make sure that it is heavy and calm. Other types of food can be salty foods. The taste of sweet foods, salty and sour. Fermented foods can be very helpful for Vata dosha. So this can be good news for those of us that like sweet and salty and sour foods. But keep in mind that those sweet, salty, and sour foods have to be a little bit heavier, a little bit warmer. So that way you're not eating crackers with hummus. That is very dry and cold. We want to bring it down to maybe having curry with warm spices. Maybe some ginger to light a bit more fire in the body. A Vata dosha can really take on all the spices. We can focus on ginger and cumin and coriander. A little bit of fennel, turmeric. These are spices that are warm and comforting. They can really stimulate that fire. And also, once your digestion is a little bit stronger, there's a little less gas and air, and that is going to relieve your anxiety and stress. So it really is all connected. It's all about finding that opposite energy to bring yourself back into balance. So I hope this is helpful. If you have any other questions, please comment down below. I would love to help share my love of yoga and Ayurveda with you. So thank you for being here.